Hello, everyone, once more, and welcome back to our show, Business Without Anxiety. Today, we are again joined with Coach Inayat Kanji from Ample Therapy. You must be really big fans of him, looking at the questions that are coming, looking at the comments that are coming. And I'm sincerely grateful to Coach Kanji for sharing his insights. And it's a shared journey. We feel that people don't talk enough about it and don't take actions based on those talks. So we decided, why not put it out in the open, create a diminishing problem by talking more. In the past, there were taboo topics, and now we talk about it, and they are less taboo, more towards healthier versions in a society. Similarly, we hope one day anxiety, especially for men, especially for business owners, would no more be a topic of shame, and we could just talk about it as if it is a simple thing but important thing. We come with our own journeys, and that helps us understand why this is important. Today, from one of our audience questions, we have picked up the topic of fear. And Coach Kanji, how do you define fear as? Let's get going onto this.
As I always like to mention to you, if I have something that seems impactful, but it's not my words, I have to
Mhm.
reference where it came from.
Okay.
So interestingly, and the thing is much of this is through learned experience. So I like to be quite open about the fact that I've struggled massively in my early formative years. And so, to answer your question, I learned it in a rehabilitation center. Um, the facilitators would drill it
Mhm.
because ultimately, many people who had substance abuse issues, whether it was prescription medication, whether it was drinking, whether it was drugs, whatever it may be, was because they were fearful of
Mhm.
emotions,
Mhm.
right? And so the acronym they kept giving us was false expectation
Mhm.
appearing real.
Let's repeat it. False expectations appearing real.
That's it.
Some of you might know this, but if you know this, doesn't mean that it's a small thing. Just let it sink in. Go ahead, Coach Inayat.
False expectation appearing real. And the reason why we discuss this at such length is because
Mhm.
most people who overthink, who worry, who have
Mhm.
anxiety, because it's just a worry of what we cannot control, the future, not living in the present. And
Mhm.
thus we turn to behaviors. Some people have addictive behaviors in other senses, right? Um, so catastrophization became a major thing or a theme, if you like, as a
Right.
result of playing bad movies in our head, as I say, which we're not getting Oscars for.
There is a
Um,
reason for it for the brain. What's the word for it? Where the earlier human, when we were growing, these
Primitive,
primitive nerves.
yeah.
If you are ready for the worst situation and something less happens, then you're still ready for it. And that was the reason why, the original reason why the brain has been designed to catastrophize. But if you make
Mm,
it a habit, that becomes a completely different game.
indeed. And I suppose this is why off camera we're discussing the innate and primitive nature of fight or flight,
Hmm.
survival, right? And so fear has its place. If one had no fear, understandably, one might not be able to calculate risk versus caution, right? To some degree,
I
you
think if
might.
humans did not have fear, they would be dead in 5 minutes because they would be doing things which
Well, that's
were.
my point, right? Someone say walk off that cliff. Oh, I'll do that, right? Yeah. Not calculating, can I fly, right? So obviously it has its place, right?
Right. Yeah.
But again, it's a case of a balanced approach to. Would you call it an emotion?
I think it's an indicator to start with, which keeps us safe. As babies, human babies have two proven kinds of fear. One is fear of falling, and I believe the other one is fear of loud noises. And the reason these are there is so that when you are knowing how to walk or run away from danger, you could actually save yourself. Babies don't even have fear of not being fed, or they just know that if they cry, somebody will feed them. That's the kind of primitive programming babies have. Every other fear, let me repeat it, every other fear that you know has been learned as you grow.
Mm.
That means if you're afraid of spiders, something happened. If you're afraid of performance in front of an audience, something has happened. If you're afraid of anything related to rules and regulations, something has been taught, and many times we are teaching ourselves unconsciously. And so these are all self taught, which means
Yeah.
you can unlearn these as well.
Which is exactly the point, right? In that if it is genuinely a situation of survival, fear is very well placed.
Mm.
Because as somebody who teaches self-defense and martial arts, I use these analogies all the time. You know, you need a healthy sense of fear to be able to keep yourself alive.
Yeah,
Essentially, if you're forced to fight, you can overcome your pain barriers and your fear, but ultimately the idea is to stay alive, right? So
yeah.
in that sense, like you say, it can be the thing that sustains us. But when you're talking about performing to a crowd, or doing a sport which you've never done before, or
Yeah.
taking a risk and going on a date, because you've never been in a relationship, or like if we're talking business and anxiety, it's been giving extra responsibility or new tasks, or having to expand and innovate
Signing
and
a new
like
contract, a big legal
exactly
talk.
right.
I have seen one of my clients. He freezes when he sees big contracts, and he knows that this is going to give him 150 grand. But then he says, "Oh gosh, you know what? I don't hesitate to send this to a lawyer and pay this." But he doesn't even read. He freezes inside before that because there is something else happening over there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And as I said to you before, I can relate to many of these things. You know,
Mm.
um, as an artist, there's things which I find quite easy, which others struggle with. Some
Yeah.
people really struggle with performance and presentation, just appearing, turning up, and
Yeah.
expressing
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas for me, some aspects of the business, let's say organizationally, systems wise, project management wise, I've recognized at times I've frozen, I've procrastinated. That's my
Yeah.
symptomatic behavior of the freeze, if you like, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not dealing with something out of fear of what, right? Sometimes it might be I'm rationalizing in my head, I don't enjoy this. Sometimes you'll rationalize it as, it's arduous, it's a long process, like it's a chore, whatever the narrative is that you're telling yourself. But I recognize it in others now, because having had to try and deal with these things through my career and working life, recognizing that you're never going to get anywhere further, as we talked about off air as well, about growth, if you're not
Yeah.
able to tackle your fears.
They say nothing grows in the comfort zone.
Hmm.
In fact, there are three known responses, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. Some people actually get the courage to do it, but if you keep on doing that, then you go to burnout. We have seen in the animal kingdom where a deer or a zebra actually fakes to die so that the predator can walk away. And as soon as the predator has walked away, I actually saw a video, and this was not edited in any way, where a duck is trying to protect its ducklings by pretending to be stuck in the water, and the crocodile is focused on the mum because it
Wow.
thinks that that's easy to catch.
Wow.
What the mom is doing is giving enough time for the little ones to swim away, and it's trying to distract and by faking death. And as the crocodile came closer to the duck, she just swam away. And that was the thing. And the third one is freeze, which we're talking about, where we go to procrastination mode. We don't do anything thinking that this will go away, but unfortunately that does not. And so we got to process it. and we got to understand that why this is beneficial. I'm going to add this to one of the audience question which just came, which said,
Please.
uh, but I was taught to be afraid by my mom. And this is a generic thing that our parents or teachers or society might have taught these things. However, fear originally is a safety mechanism. We were told to walk on the correct side of the road to stay safe. As children, we could have done things which would have put us in danger. So we wanted, they told these kind of things to stay safe. Later, we felt safe when someone is looking at us or we belong to that kind of group, and we just did things to feel safer. So we are actually trying to feel safer by doing these kind of things. Sometimes comfort zone is exactly what it is. We
Mm,
feel safe staying in the
mm.
comfort zone, but if we stay there too long, nothing has changed, and being humans, we haven't moved anywhere, right? The growth has not happened. So someone just told me this morning, fear is actually faith, but in the wrong thing.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're so confident. The children movie that we were talking about, when somebody said, "Oh my gosh, we're all going to die in this canyon," etc., and then someone says, "Come on, be positive," and the other person replies, "Okay, I'm positive that we're going to die." So yeah, fear is actually faith in the wrong thing. Sometimes we are just believing that this thing is going to happen, but if we just look out, it might change our perception and belief. What do you
It's
think of that?
interesting even that, because like I say, I'm still a student. So
We
first
all
and
are.
foremost, we all are, I suppose, yeah. But I like to reiterate it for our
Yeah.
viewers because I don't. Sometimes, where I listen to a lot of self-help podcasts, and those who might give me inspiration, and some, not all, can often project as if they have it all solved because we're talking from a solution standpoint, right? But ultimately, when you're saying this stuff, I'm laughing within because I recognize some of it within myself still, right? It's a
Even
work
me,
in progress,
all of
right?
us. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We all have different areas, um, and it's just interesting because, like you say, with faith, my professor of hypnotherapy, rapid transformational therapy, Marissa Peer, used to always say, and she probably still does say, if you've told yourself something for many, many years,
Mm-hmm.
which initially you thought would protect yourself, because often
Mm-hmm.
it's done very subconsciously, so you don't even realize you're doing it, right? But like you say, it comes from that emotion that then reflects in thought, right? So I need safety, security, belonging, these are the feelings I need. And thus, you find a way to rationalize yourself into that comfort zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, it stops serving you,
Mm-hmm.
like you're mentioning, yeah? It might start hindering you rather than protecting you or helping you.
Right.
And at that stage, you have to ask yourself, so what I'm telling myself, is it true or not? And if you
Correct.
start to recognize in that moment, I'm actually telling myself a lie
Mm-hmm.
in order to protect myself. I am not capable. I am not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I can't achieve that. It's not
Mm-hmm.
me, whatever it may be. She
Mm-hmm.
uses the statement, tell yourself a better lie,
That's
you
so
know,
true. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
until you believe it
Yeah.
innately, like, even just from a wiring standpoint,
A helpful
because of that
lie,
inner
something that
motivation,
helps you
right?
grow.
Yeah.
Helpful. So, I mean, I would say a helpful fact instead of using the word lie. And this goes to the Greek philosophers. I don't remember if it was Aristotle or whoever, one of them. And somebody ran and came and said, "I want to tell you this about your student." And he said, "First of all, tell me, do you know if it is true or false?" He says, "I don't know. I just heard it." All right. So you don't know if it is true. Secondly, is it going to help someone else? Um, I don't know. I just heard it. All right. So you don't know if it is helpful. All right. Lastly, is it going to help you or me grow? Meaning after we. So he says, I don't know. Okay. So these are the three tests. If even if it is a lie, if it is helpful to you, then you tell it. If it is helping you grow, then you tell it. And but if you don't know if it is true or false, then why should you tell it? And this is where our response is extremely clear, that it's not really a lie, it is something that you're telling your brain, the reptile side of things. If I say that I am not going to die in the next 20 seconds if I face these 20 people in a networking event, so I am not saying, in fact, I'll tell another lie that I have told myself as well, where people were climbing up a mountain to go fall down as part of leadership workshop. And one of the participants, he mentioned, I can't do it, but he was telling himself a lie, that let me go up, and if I can't do it, I'll walk down. Okay, so that was the lie he was telling himself. And so in one lie, I'm saying that in 20 seconds in front of these business leaders, nothing is going to happen if I stand and say my 60 seconds. The second one is,
Mm.
let me climb up. If I cannot do it, I'll walk down. Knowing fully well that the ladder actually is one way and he cannot walk down. The only way he can come down was if he jumps from there, of course, with supervision, just because it was a leadership workshop. These
Mm.
small things are helpful things that are actually helping the brain feel safe under supervision. And then you take micro steps. You say for next 20 seconds, next 30 seconds, and so forth, hello everyone, this is my business and I'm here to talk about this. And then you sit down, and that
Mm.
has given you one more level of safety. Or if you
Mm.
have climbed something and then jumped off with supervision, that has given you some version of safety. 2 years ago, I walked over fire for charity, and everybody gets scared because of the coals. But they have a technique. They actually teach you how to do it, and Tony Robbins does it so often. And the first time you walk over burning coals, it's so beautiful that you want to do it again, saying, now that I have done it, oh my
Mm.
gosh, I want to raise more money for charity. I want to work for more times on. And by the way, many of them do it on the spot
Wow.
because they know that I was catastrophizing about these burning coals. Of course,
Mm.
please don't do it at home without supervision. Go to a
Of
proper
course.
workshop.
Of course.
Uh, but what it shows is once you have done that micro step,
Mm.
you have taken it to the next level to do another micro step.
Mm.
And then, like Marisa Peer was saying, tell another helpful lie
Mm.
until it starts empowering you, saying that no, nothing will happen if you face public speaking, nothing will happen if you wear things this way, or nothing will happen if you grow out of your comfort zone. Um,
What's interesting, sorry to interject, Chief,
yeah,
just
yeah.
is that what you're making me think about is visualizations.
Feeling, by the way, feeling with visualization, not just visualization, but
Of course,
feeling.
no, of course, the
Yeah.
two have to be interconnected, right? Because when you think of people who have, and I'm not going to use the word successful because success is something that is personally measurable, it's subjective. But let's
Relative.
say
Yeah.
people who have envisioned and then
Mm,
manifested,
mm,
they feel like they've manifested it, right?
mhm, mhm.
It might be difficult to rationalize, but they feel they've manifested it because ultimately only they
They
know
feel it
how
real in
often
their
they
five senses.
visualized it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like you say, in terms of the discussion of fear and faith and false narratives,
Hmm.
catastrophizing, if we're in the workplace and in every scenario, in every interaction, in every task, we're visualizing negative outcomes,
Hmm.
we're catastrophizing, we're playing bad movies in our head, then ultimately it's not going to be a surprise that some of that energy is transferred into the action that you
And it
engage in.
actually comes true there. It's
Right,
self-fulfilling. Yeah,
right. It's mad, isn't it? The self-fulfilling
yeah,
prophecy. Whereas
yeah,
if one approaches it from the other standpoint, where they are just more present and in that present moment, just recognizing what they can achieve,
yeah.
then often just putting those building blocks together
Hmm.
you start to have a positive projection or visualization, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes, like, the idea that we only live in the present, I think is a bit, it's difficult. It's difficult, right?
That
And
that point actually helps use that fear to grow.
yeah, so that's what I'm
Um,
saying. If we're going to give thought to the future,
yeah,
then rewire it in a way of positivity
yeah,
where you're visualizing things that empower you rather
yeah.
than add weight to you, right? And like we talk about the fight, flight, or
Can I
freeze,
give an
you know,
example?
please jump in, jump in.
And this is a proper physical one, so people can go and try this. And this one is much way safer than walking on fire. Okay. Um, if you go to the coast, okay, and sorry to the people in the UK because it's extremely cold, and hopefully you do it in a warmer place. But yeah, I mean, if you are
We might
protected.
get some tropical summer, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or we might wear some stuff properly so that it's all right. But
wetsuit.
go to the
Yeah,
waves,
yeah.
go to a safe coast, and you see waves coming in.
Mm,
And I actually I was born in the eastern part of India, where it is literally, I mean, the sunrises are amazing, and the waves are really great. And you see the wave, and you turn your back towards it,
okay.
and the wave will slap you,
Hmm.
and you might fall down because of the wave, depending on the strength of the wave, right? But if you open your arms and you face the wave will actually lift you up, and you swim easier in the rising wave. And it actually feels, because your head is always above water, you feel safer. The wave actually raises you, and then you come down again and feel the ground. The wave comes
Hmm.
back and raises you, and you feel the ground. If you face the wave with open arms, and you are more stable, you do the same thing but face the wave the other way, the wave will push you, slap you, and you fall down.
Hmm.
And what I'm trying to say is, whenever there is fear or a fearful situation, whether it is real or not, like you mentioned, first check whether it is truth or lie, whether it is helpful or not helpful. Those kind of techniques can be used. But if we know that these kind of situations are the situations which will energize us to rise, they will help us grow.
Hmm.
You become stronger out of adversity, out
Hmm.
of situations that test you, than always being protected and doing things which are very protective. In fact, if the adversity is coming, but if you put your back towards it, it will slap you down.
Hmm.
You face it, you learn from it, and you keep your cool. It will help you raise to the next level of growth in life, in relationship, and business. And you embrace it, saying, "Oh, thank God I have this crisis." And this is actually helpful. It gives you a new level of energy, because you are not using that energy to fight that fear, you are using that energy to grow out of it. And here, when you said false expectations appearing real, I wanted to keep it to the last. There are two alternative acronyms or full forms for this: face everything and rise.
Hmm.
And the other one I normally like is face everything and respond, not react, but respond. But the one I
Hmm.
really like is face everything and rise.
I like that. I like that.
And use
As you're
fear.
describing it, yeah, because as you're describing it, like, I know we're coming to a close. It's interesting because I always use this phrase, which I can say is mine, which is, we have an ocean of human emotion within us, right?
Oh, I love that.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and it's about how one rides the waves. So you just give me a nice one, a nice addition to my analogy, to my metaphor, because ultimately that's all it is, right? And as you say, if you can embrace it rather than trying to fight it. So even
yeah,
when you describe, turning your back and then using your coping mechanisms, So in this case, raising your arms, to rise with the wave, rather than being combative and crashing into the wave. And it's interesting, you can relate everything to, again, martial arts, other things, it has a similar nature, like you work with
Right.
somebody's weight distribution rather than crashing into them. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's very interesting. It's
One
an
thing,
interesting discussion.
if our audience can take one thing from here, is use fear as your friend from now on.
Mm,
Embrace it, and that will reduce the catastrophization, that will reduce the anxiety, that will reduce the and the flight and the fight kind of responses, and give a growth response rather than any of the other unhelpful kind of things.
mm,
I understand today was slightly shorter than 30 minutes,
indeed.
given the time limit, but I think this is one of the key things, and there are many solid books and topics related to fear. I mean, you do it. I think there is a wonderful book called "Do It Anyway," and there is one related like "Eat the Frog," which is again, it all comes down to fear, by the way. Although "Eat the Frog" is more like slightly different version of it. But what I want to say, everyone, is when fear comes, think of it like an indicator one while you're driving, and you just have to look at it and be aware of it, but keep the focus on the road, not on the indicator or the road sign. Because if you keep your eyes on the actual problem and you take your eyes off the road, you're actually doing that self-fulfilling thing and hitting the problem. You
Mm.
use them as indicators, but focus on the road to grow. Hope
I
that
think
was
that's a
you.
lovely way to finish. Focus on the road to grow. One step at a time,
Yeah,
one, meter at a time, however you want to put it. But yeah, I
one
think that's
step.
a lovely way to put it.
Sincere thanks, Inayat,
No, thank you. Thank you as always, Jeeve, and thanks to our audience for watching and listening.
and for sending so lovely questions. So, see you next week again, and keep growing. Face everything and rise.
Likewise. Peace and
Take
love, my
care.
friend.